what's your position in the with regard to the festival?
Well, when I was 11 years old, I walked up the Nipissing Ridge, which is a geographic feature that runs throughout Tiny. It's that escarpment ridge that used to represent the old shoreline of Lake Algonquin.
You're right.
So the water used to be at that level. So a lot of people don't understand why that's so significant, is that's where the water used to be, and it's slowly lowered over many years to where it is now.
Hmm.
And so it means on the top was the old beach,
Right.
because that's the sandbar, and that runs, of course, through Tiny. So when I was 11, I was tired of just lying at Woodland Beach, just absorbing the sun. So I just decided to explore the woods, and I came upon this escarpment. It was quite a high hill I had to climb, and then I got up into the farmland plateau. And I looked back around my shoulder, and I could see Blue Mountain and all the hills because the trees weren't that high. And I went, "Wow, what a great spot!" So it's like up on 12th and 14th where you see the panorama. If you're up on the 12th or 14th concession of Tiny, the panorama view of Georgian Bay is because they have the elevation there. And you probably see that as you're driving to LaFontaine. You see the water.
Yeah, when I'm coming down the 16, that's the
Th-
thing I
th-
see right as I go
There you
down
go.
the dip there.
So that's what gave me that wow at 11. I went, wow, what a great spot. If I could ever one day own this, this is where I'd put a cottage. Well, fast forward many years later, I was able to purchase the land, and I was then able to purchase the additional agricultural land. And over many years, I rezoned the land to share it with as many people as I could, which is a campground.
Okay.
I could have turned it into a subdivision, which everyone was doing below me.
Hmm.
And I realized I was losing all the trails to subdivisions. Every year there would be another subdivision taking up my mountain bike trail that I'd grown up loving, because there's thousands of kilometers of trails, all with the cottagers have used for over 120 years.
Yeah.
And you know that every end of a concession becomes a trail linking to the Trans-Canada. So I thought, wouldn't it be great if I kept it open? And I'd been to New York City where I saw Central Park, where they've kept that pristine. And so over the years, I made sure any developer that tried to develop, I asked the township, please make them donate a chunk of the land to that common zone so that there's one day, long after I'm gone, that there's a Central Park for the cottagers to use. And Fast Track now, I've been able to build an infrastructure that people can share, and it's recreational zoning for, we'll say, the RV industry. And with COVID and house affordability, we're a sold out park, because I offer things
Fantastic.
no one else has ever done. We have people growing their own food. We have a medical dental on site. We have Hoyer Lift, which we can look after the elderly with a self-contained unit to be able to say take someone out of a wheelchair and look after them with a PSW. People aren't calling it an RV park; they're calling it a village now, and
Okay.
and so that's sort of the concept that I've seen in Europe. As you age, it's the generation of grandparents that look after their kids, and that's how knowledge is passed. And so I thought that infrastructure and the European model, especially in Germany, you get these villages of excellence. And if you know Ingersoll Rand and companies like that, that's the concept in Germany, which is they become the best at something, and then no one can ever touch them. So I used
Yeah.
a lot of those concepts. I have about five mentors that have helped me achieve my goals. One was Frank Stronach, Magna.
Okay. Wow.
Um,
All right.
he
Yeah,
he
he's
created
active in Penetanguishene too, right? He's got a
well he's got plants all around the world. He's the biggest. Magna was the most successful business because it was profit share based. Always gave back to the communities, and I learned how Frank would run the hoedown in Aurora, and I worked it for many years. For 30 years, I gave back to the community through the Optimist Club of Aurora, and Doug Ford gave me an award for those 30 years, which is nice to be honored, but that wasn't my intent. But it was nice that I
and that
learned.
award would have been recent.
That was recent, and
And
I was able
what
to.
was that award called?
It was from the Ontario Government Volunteer 30-year award. And so, knowing that I was in the presence of greatness with the Magna success and giving back and the hoedown, I took all those ideas to the festival that we now are enjoying called the Georgian Bay Festival. But also the concept of a village was very important to me because we all need a shelter, but it can't be so crippling that we can't also afford to live quality of life. And housing, of course, is a crisis now. So we are working on that concept of how can people not have to leave Canada like the snowbirds, because the snowbirds no longer want to leave Canada anymore.
Yeah.
So what do we do when they leave for those 6 months to Arizona or Florida? Now that they don't want to, where are they going to live? Because a
Right.
lot of the people in the park are snowbirds. So
Mhm.
we're looking at ideas for that, which I can elaborate, probably another topic though.
Sure. So, that is what you're describing, though. The village, is that the fairgrounds itself, or is it
No,
adjacent to the
it's
fairgrounds? Or
there's two parcels to the property. One is the fairgrounds is where we've always run the Georgian Bay Festival, and it's where we can accommodate larger numbers of people. During COVID, we had the Good Brothers. We were one of the few concerts that would take a chance because you could only have a couple hundred people because of social distancing. But I was able to hire the Good Brothers, and they provided two shows at half the price, so they're good to me. Um, and we're basing the festivals on giving back, business to businesses, and that's why it's been so successful this year. Um, there is an earlier start to the festival. It's in June now, early June,
right?
and we want the businesses that are sponsoring us to then meet the other businesses and cross market. So we've got a lot of tiny businesses. Georgian Edge, which is a new company starting rental. Of course, Georgian Grill, one of the oldest, 1934. So we're mixing the old and the new, and they all get together and in the beer garden. A lot of ideas, we'll say, flow just like a papa, if you want to call it that.
Nice.
Yeah,
Sure, I'll call it that. Yeah. I get the sense when I've been there in the past that most of the attendance, I mean, it's well attended. It's not uh, obviously a lot of the people are not from Tiny.
they're cottagers.
What's your average attendance? So it is they are cottagers, right? What's the average attendance?
During COVID 2000,
Okay.
they blew our doors off because there was no one starting festivals. It was just too risky.
Hmm.
But I was able to, none of the artists had any work. So they basically came at cost. And we were able to have some really good parties during COVID. And I worked with public health since my background is I'm an orthodontist is my background. So they
Okay.
trusted that I probably knew what I was doing with
Okay.
protecting the public health. And since I'm regulated by a regulated profession, I sort of know how to protect the public.
I imagine you were also in a situation too where, I mean, in theory, of course, it seemed risky, but so was that actually during like 2020, 21, or yeah?
Yes,
Okay.
all through that. We never stopped.
Because perhaps in the early days, I guess people would have still been quite worried. But I think the first time that I joined was in 22, and I think by that point people were just hungry to get out and see other people. Right?
They
So
were, yeah, yeah. So we catalyzed that, and people all were sort of grateful that there was a chance to get out, say hello, meet their neighbors.
excellent. Right. So do you have a like do the festivals have themes, or is the idea of it being Georgian Bay just a theme enough?
Eric, that's a great question. We had to focus what we were doing because it was sort of random. It was called shotgun approach to marketing. We didn't know what we were doing.
Right.
So we were bringing in Elvis, and then next we'd have Neil Diamond, and then we'd have someone playing bagpipes. So it was all over the map, and we couldn't make
Kind of
anyone
like that
happy.
though.
Yeah, couldn't make anyone happy because if I do AC/DC, it's going to alienate the ones that want to hear the tenors.
Sure.
So we thought this year, and this was Paul Sadlin's brilliant idea because Paul Sadlin Jr. is a marketing expert. He said, Don, why don't you create something where the average family can afford their kids the music they grew up with? So, hence our generation loved Tragically Hip and the Eagles. So we said, well, why don't we get the best tribute bands? Doesn't cost a fortune. Our tickets are well priced within a affordable range, and we have lots of food vendors that are going to range anywhere from pizza all the way up to smash burgers. So that if you want to spend $20 on a smash burger, that's okay too. But we want to make sure that no one feels that they can't afford to come in, and it's actually free all day up until then. When you have to get through to see one of the ticketed performers, then you got to open your wallet.
Right. Oh, that's great.
And that's the Kempenfest formula. It's very successful. It's so the vendors don't have people not wanting to come because they had to open their wallet to pay to see vendors. No one wants that.
Yeah, for the vendor side, for sure, but understandable that you'd want to be able to collect for the because the artists, they need to be compensated.
We
Absolutely.
call it music appreciation.
Nice.
Because interestingly, a lot of people are hesitant to pay for music, but they don't play for free, and they're actually pricing themselves out of the market. I was to show you what we're paying the bands, um, we're concerned that there will be only large corporations that can eventually run music festivals because no one can really afford what it costs to put on a show.
What do you attribute that to?
They're trying to make up for the lost income for the last 5 years.
Right, of course. I think we all are. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, if you've only made a hit once and you're in decline and you see your numbers are going down, um, it's a tough gig.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what are some of the you've mentioned a few already. What are some of the acts on the lineup this year?
Well, our headliner is Epic Eagles, and they play all around the state. So we're very lucky to get them to come for us as our headliner, the main one. So that's most musicians don't want to play when there's sunshine. They want the shock and awe, and we've got a huge light system coming. So we want
Right.
to make sure that they're compensated for giving us a good deal by giving them the best time. And then earlier, the 50 Mission is a Tragically Hip tribute. They're before them. And then we have Lifted and some other artists that are there all in the lineup. So there's music all day with very gifted acoustic artists.
Fantastic. And so, in addition to working with the Festival de Lou, you have other community partnerships or collaborations that make the festival possible?
Well, take a look at our sponsor list. Yes,
Right.
every sponsor that's helped us has made this possible. So we're very grateful to our sponsors, and please go on the webpage, and we're promoting them 5 ways. They get their social media, they get their logo on their corporate table, they get their logo on the webpage constantly, and they get their logo on the stage banners. And of course, a lot of them are actually putting a vendor booth in the vendor area as well as getting their corporate table where they then do business to business in the VIP area.
And what's that? That's more like merchandise and stuff and swag, or
No, no, the sponsor vendor or the sponsorship tables are for them to become a sponsor, they get 8 tickets and they get a table in the VIP area. And then they get to hang with all the other people that wanted to sponsor. So a lot of them are
oh,
wanting to see the other sponsors that they've known but never met personally.
I
And
understand. This is
and
your reference before to the ideas happening in the beer tent, right?
that's right. But
Okay.
what's going to happen is something I learned at the last conference I went to. As I'm members of a lot of associations, the best one is the Campion Ontario, and they had all the vendors with us where we were eating, so we actually could see the guys that were paying for our meal. And at breakout session, we'd go say hello to the suppliers and the t-shirt sellers and the septic guys. So they're all around us, not sort of in another room. And then they let the sponsors go to the microphone and introduce who they were and why they're there. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to have all the sponsors, and some of them are shy. They're not going to go on the stage, but I'd say half of them are going to go up and say, "Hi, I'm so and so from." Let's say an example. I'm Jordan from Mountain View Nurseries, and he's got a beautiful business on Palm Beach. Well, he's going to probably grab that microphone and introduce himself as an old established family that's been in the nursery business for years. But have you heard of him?
No, I actually haven't. No.
There you go. Well, you
Yeah,
know that Palm Beach nursery and on the road to Midland on the
I
right hand
do.
side?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Old family business.
Ah,
And you're going to meet him. And he's going to do the arrangements at the gate. So when people arrive, we're going to market his business because he's going to then the extra flowers and things at the end of the season, he'll probably put them all over our entrance gate and make it beautiful because there's a time when you got to sell those things or donate them.
right. Cool. Yeah. Any other standout moments of generosity that would reflect the good-natured spirit of Tiny Township? You could any shout
Yeah,
outs you'd like to make?
Yeah, very grateful for Tiny Township. They're sending the fire department.
Okay.
That's usually popular. Um, Wasaga Paintball is coming with their shooting gallery and at no charge letting everyone shoot paintballs at their target, which for
Always
kids
fun.
is great. I'm working with DaCosta Magic Show. He's going to put on two magic shows in the area of our teepee. So there's sort of a kids zone. We've got a dog show. Um, we're trying to shotgun anything that we think might be a future viable festival for the future. We're bringing the St. Andrews Pipes and Drums, where my son is at St. Andrews. He and his buddies are going to open the festival at 2 o'clock, playing their bagpipes and drums, and then that'll start the festival. So that's sort of a highlight for me as a proud father, seeing for his and his best friends launch because they're winning awards. Because St. Andrews is very unique in Canada. It's pipes and drums, and their professor Matt McIsaac he wins at Edinburgh. So the kids are being trained by the best in the world. It's like being trained to ski by one of the Olympic.
Todd Boborski or something.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So the quality that they're training these kids at St. Andrews is remarkable. So
That's incredible.
So, and then then later in the evening, my son's going to play, of course, good old Paul McCartney, Mull of Kintyre, which for any burned out executive, they have to figure out why did Paul McCartney buy 40 acres of like moorland and scrubland so he could just recharge his battery?
Right.
And that's the song he writes about. So,
Excellent.
so some professional musicians will be paying that with my son on bagpipes.
That's fantastic. That's great.
So other peak moments, I can't give away all the secrets. I want people to
Of
really show
course.
up. But there's a
Of course.
lot of incredible vendors. The vendor list is really special this year. There's been a lot of people very talented. Um, so that there's a lot of good vendors.
And how far away are they coming from?
I'd say 100-mile radius.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So perhaps people is, like Barry and Aurelia.
Well, the going rate for a vendor spot is about 300 and up, and they charge and charge and charge electricity or water and add on, add on. Ours is $100.
Right. Right.
And that's to I think promote anyone that has a service and make it very affordable. Um, and that's why we're not making price a barrier to anyone because the going rate for vendors, if you just Google, it's usually 3 or 4 times that. Oh, the other big one. This is the big one. You'll love this. Gary French was an Elmville icon. He's a lawyer, and they did a lot of the farm shows. And over the years, they've developed a incredible farm quiz with posters, with farm implements and hammers and unusual artifacts. And the farmers and the public get to say what they are. So I've restored that display, and that's going to be a huge feature because the older farmers they know what those things are. And so that's going to be a highlight for me is having my staff hand out the quiz. And of course, there's going to be awards for that. And the other is any of the farmers that come with a piece of heavy farm equipment, they get 2 tickets to then at no charge to get in. So we're not calling it a farm parade. It's more of an agricultural display. So anyone that after they've done, because it's an expensive time for them to bring equipment if they're in the field, but in the evening, if they come with their equipment, they can park because they'll all be displayed for people to see, and the farmers can then talk to each other. And some of the big sponsors are Kubota, who will be bringing different types of agricultural equipment. The big one that I'm happy about is Mackenzie RV. They are bringing a whole mix of really cool modern RVs. A lot of people have not been in RVs in the last few years, and when they go in, their mouths open in shock that there's Corian, there's fireplaces, there's pull-out bars, and they're 12 wides. I mean, you're no longer feeling that you're in a tin can. So there'll be a chance for Mackenzie RV to show modern RV. That was a good question, Eric. I'm asking about what I'm really psyched about. Of course, it's the music, it's the vendors. We're also my pride and joy. I hold the best for last. The park naturalist is Bob Bowles. He's a celebrity naturalist that talks for Simcoe.com.
I
He's
know Bob. I know Bob very well. Yeah.
so Bob's the park naturalist that developed all my trails 12 years ago.
Okay.
And over these years, he said,
A
Don,
great guy
Don,
for
Don,
that.
you gotta promote me. I said, okay, Bob, how do you want me to promote you? So he said, well, make sure that they know I'm an ecologist and the park naturalist. I said, okay. Now,
So here you go.
Bob would take people
Here's a
through the
shout out for
woods.
Bob. Yeah.
Yeah, Bob would take people through the woods, and he'd be losing them. Where the kids would come up, and he'd have to. During COVID, he was covering his mouth. He was worried, and we were losing. It was like herding cats through the forest. It wasn't working,
Right.
and you start to see the crowd lose enthusiasm. So what I built for Bob is a people mover. I had the Mennonites build for me. It's a V-shaped sort of wagon where you can get 40 people on, and Bob is at the top, just behind the tractor, with his chargeable microphone that can play anywhere. It's a big microphone that has an amplifier, so it's got a big lithium battery, so it lasts all day. So he doesn't need a generator. And we're going to take him every 45 minutes through the park up to the lookout tower that gives you a panorama over Georgian Bay. So people will then get him to describe all the nature on that 40-minute route and talk about the Nipissing Ridge. So there's like key areas that Bob will talk about. And so everyone's fighting to drive that tractor because it's a very popular event.
That's fantastic.
And that's a peak. So it'll be lineups for that throughout the whole day. So we keep people moving. But Bob will be the naturalist that loves to do that. And he's so brilliant. You ask Bob anything. And if you ever go to an OMB hearing, all the lawyers that know they're fighting Bob, they close their books and say, we're out of here. We're going to
It
lose.
gets scary for them. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. He works very hard also in the for the preservation of the Oro moraine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Bob does great work, and I'm glad that because I wasn't aware that he did that and that he's active out on this side of Simcoe County. Most of the
Very
work
active.
he has is in
He and I
the
have worked extensively for 10 years. He developed 4 interlocking trail routes through the park. So they all have a different theme, and each theme is really exciting because you can do a self-guided tour through the park. It's very
Now,
popular.
is this all like privately funded and managed? Do you have any help from the township or the province or the county, or this is
Self-financed.
that's all
Um,
all self-financed and help from them?
well, I had really good people helping me, and I took their advice.
Right. Yeah, sounds like it.
And dentistry helped a bit.
Of course, yeah. Orthodontistry specifically.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember when I had my braces, that cost my parents a pretty penny for sure.
Well, we're fully licensed at the clinic, and I have now an independent hygienist running the clinic, and she doesn't need the guidance of a dentist. So it means her patients are loyal to her and she's loyal to them without a dentist interference,
Mhm.
because normally a dentist then has a hygienist working on his patients. But now with the independent restorative hygienist, they can work alone, and the government is encouraging that. So
Good.
I've helped that because it's the future, which is someone benefiting from their own hard work. So she's going to be there. She's got a booth in the vendor booth just to introduce herself. But eventually we'll be looking for a foot doctor and a skin doctor and massage therapist. So that's the growth of the health side. That's my strength, is the health. So that's also blossoming from the main base, because then you don't have to build 10 sterilization centers. I have one incredibly expensive sterilization center, one bank of 9 toilets, and so you don't have to reproduce that every time you have a healthcare provider. They just need their own dedicated specialized trailer, which is on wheels, which is ideal because say one day they want to move it to Timbuktu, they pull their clinic with them without spending that money in someone else's landlord's property. Because as soon as you do that in a landlord's property, you lose that. You can't take it with you. Whereas the trailer module is much better for success, so they can move it modularly.
Hmm.
And when I was sent up to Big Trail Lake as the first dentist in 2 years, I learned how to run a health center in the size of a trailer. And I thought, well, if I take these ideas back to my concept at Georgian Bay Park, I think I can run health center in an affordable way, because it's the rent that kills you and
Right.
the infrastructure. So it's no different than sharing the same expensive thing with 10 other people. So that's how I'm try to keep costs affordable. And that concept's at the park.
Great. Cool. Yeah, I'm you're familiar with Norman Bethune then? Yeah, so he invented the Mobile Army Surgical Hospital, right? He's the inventor of the MASH unit from the famous TV show. So it's a bit
Absolutely.
reminiscent of that, right?
Yep. No, I learned that from just being sent up to Big Trout Lake. And I said, yeah, this is fun, because it was commando dentistry. People hadn't seen a dentist for 2 years, and they open their mouth and I'm going, wow, I've just graduated and I get to really play with my skills. So you become sort of adapt very quickly if you've got 20 other people in the room waiting for you.
And I have to assume with all of this stuff that you're doing, at least I hope you're retired.
No, no, I'm fully
Okay.
licensed.
You're
I'm
fully
a
licensed and you're still
fully
working.
licensed.
So, any hopes for the future as the festival continues to grow?
Yes, baby steps. We're hoping
Baby
for
steps.
the 500 to 800 attendance. Next year, we're hoping maybe for a little bit more. We're growing very slowly. We want to learn each year. We learn from our mistakes. So yeah, just slow growth. Give back to the community. Um, Again, good question, but yeah, just slow growth and learn.
Well, hopefully, we'll be able to put some stuff out there and be able to promote this for you. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. My pleasure. Um, So, any last sort of like call to action, anything that you'd like us to be able to do? Check out the website, obviously, but is there anything else that you'd like to be able to get in
Please
as
buy
we
tickets.
wrap this
Please
up?
come. Please buy tickets. Come even if you don't want to pay for the music later at night. Just come and support the vendors, please.
Support the vendors. Sure.
Now, there is a $5 parking charge if you don't have it. If you're just there, it's $5 to park, just get into the area. But if you have a ticket to the show, there's no charge for parking.
Fantastic.
So that's to help pay because we have Georgian Bay Search and Rescue running all that for us.
Excellent. Well, it looks like, and so,
Oh, but this year, oh yeah, again, I'm missing all these gems. The Tonight Show, there's only 4 stages in the Tonight Show, and Paul Sadlin Jr. bought one of the 4 stages in North America. It's the stage because a lot of the artists they sort of get to the point where they won't play on a small stage because it's beneath them.
right,
So you got to keep building the bigger stage.
right.
And so we've found that the modular concept is safer than doing what Havelock did at Jamboree, where they built a $2 million stage, but then they're stuck with that location. So the mobile factor allows the Paul Sadlin, it's called Loft Vegas Production. They can move that around to different festivals. And so just to come see that stage is well worth it. Because there's only 4 in the world.
Great. All right. Well, I guess now's the right time to experience the Georgian Bay Festival. I look forward to seeing you there, Don Stubbs,
Thank you.
owner and organizer of the park.